Welcome to the Wise Yourself Up podcast. I am your host, Carla McGreevy, and in today's episode, I'm going to share with you how I made the decision to move to London at 35. First of all, I want to thank each of you who have ever listened to this podcast, because I absolutely love making this podcast, and it's one of my favourite parts of my job. I love getting DMs from you all, getting to know each of you, having the crack, and the community that's building with this podcast. It has been such a gift and such a dream for me. I, however, will not, cannot, would rather lick plastic slices of cheese listen to these episodes back. So please help me. Don't make me do that. Please send in your thoughts of what you love about the podcast, what you don't like, what I could do better, any ideas, what you would really like to see or hear, collaborations you'd like to see happen. If you do this, if you message me with any of your ideas or thoughts or helpful criticisms, it just means that you're really sound. I'm a service provider, a business, and everybody can do with that feedback, and it's really hard when you're working on your own. And as in my previous life, I worked for brands, and I always worked brands with smaller businesses such as pubs and things like that. It's just so important that a bar, or in my case a service provider, gets feedback so that they can do better, especially if you really do enjoy the service that they provide for any business. And I think people can feel like you feel like a bit of a knob saying anything bad or feeding back that you didn't like something, but it's so helpful. And then the business owner or the service provider can make a decision whether they want to change it or whether they stand by what their offer is. And it's much better than just getting turned off by something that you once loved. I get that people don't really want to give opinions. People don't even like to say they've had a bad meal, but it just helps feedback and helps the business survive in a world where smaller businesses aren't surviving. And yes, I do feedback. I try and do it in a way that's really sound and communicative. And I only really do it if I really love the business. Like, I wouldn't feedback to a business that I would never be using or coming back to again anyway. So this goes out on the 28th of August. Summer is over. My heart can't cope. It just feels that the summer was a blink. Maybe because I was away in Bali for so long this year, and I only got into this apartment in June. So it makes the summer really short then, even though the weather didn't really pick up, did it? I'm really not for summer being over. I'm ready for the change of seasons. I don't know how you feel about it. I like the change. I like the winter, like the spring, like the summer. I wouldn't like to be in one climate all year round. I don't think so anyway. But I'm just not ready for this summer to be over. Also, I was non-stop this summer in a really good, fun, full way. And I have no plans for the next few weeks, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Okay, electric picnic. Electric picnic was so much fun. The full moon really did cause havoc. Also, Mercury was in retrograde, or as my friend Podrick says, Mercury is a retrograde. Yeah, and it said that it was going to cause havoc with technology and travel, and it really did. On the day that I was leaving for EP, my phone wouldn't charge. The charger broke. I was like, no. So there was me arriving to EP with 20% battery for a start. There was a few crashes on the M7, and we had like 2 hours of traffic, so we were delayed by a further 2 hours. So I think we were in the car for like 6 hours to do a 3-hour journey, and I had to sprint through that field for my breathwork class. And then the rest of the festival was great. There was like 100 people at my class, and I was raging because I wanted to, I don't know if any of you follow Yoga with Nisha. She teaches techno yoga, and I really wanted to try her class. I just love her energy online. I didn't get to experience it, which I was raging about. Okay, I'll briefly tell you what I enjoyed in EP, and then I'll try and get to the topic. So the first night, I would say my favourite act on the first night will be Ethel Kane, who I actually hadn't listened to before. So really enjoyed her, thought she was amazing, loved her energy, everything about her. She's just so sexy and cool. And then Saturday I taught at 12. It was such a buzz. I haven't taught movement in a while. This was a yoga class and I loved it. It was so good. And yeah, just to be in a big group like that, it was a really special experience because I taught at the first wellness of EP and there wasn't those crowds then at the wellness part. And it's nice that we are blending being feral with wellness. Very on brand for me, isn't it? Saturday, the highlight has to be kneecap. It was great to see the boys getting a great slot, 7 p.m. I think there was like maybe 16,000 or something, or 13 or 16,000, something around there at the gig. Amazing to see, and it's so surreal to see all the ads for the film all around London, like the boys from West Belfast here for it. So hopefully they get an Oscars nomination too. And then on the Sunday was Kylie. I've never seen Kylie live and I love all Kylie's songs. She was so beautiful. Her energy, her stage presence, everything was just next level. One of the best live acts I've ever seen. I couldn't get over it. Had a ball. And then I just love the theatrics of EP. It's very immersive. They have people going around who are trying to mess with your head and tell you where secret raves are and there isn't. And then the secret rave is somewhere else. And there was a laundry room where you had to confess your sins and get blessed for having heterosexual sex and all these different pieces. And I think that's my favourite part of EP is that immersive, really playful, trying to find things part to it. Although I went to bed Friday, I think I went to bed at 2, Saturday 1 or 2, Sunday 12, because I was driving the next morning. And no matter what, even if you're not up all night, it's tiring. Socialising, dancing, walking for 12 hours at least a day. It's a lot. And then you're not drinking enough water. I'm really showing my age here. You're not eating enough. And it just takes its toll. So I was wrecked. Now, it wasn't too bad, the recovery, as opposed to my younger years if I had went. It's really making me reconsider if I can hack Glasgow. I had this idea of me being at Glasgow, having a ball, but then I don't know if I'm really that festival girl. I think I need to sit and, that's one of my meditation questions. Am I a festival girl? Can I do Glasgow? Then it was a travel home. It was another 6 hours and we didn't even stop for a pee from EP to Belfast. And then there was delays in my flight and it was another 6 hours. To say I was like a bear, I was actually on the verge of tears. And luckily Katrina, my housemate, was in when I came in the door because she's a mad bitch who is up at midnight on a Tuesday. Like, that is insanity to me as a girl who goes to bed at 9 p.m. But luckily she was, because she just busted out laughing at me. Then that made me laugh as opposed to burst into tears, because this state of me, I looked wild, hair everywhere, face just levelled. I was just in bits. Let's get on to this week's share, which is around me deciding to move to London at 35. I am a massive believer in that you're only young and hot once, and it haunts me at night. Haunts me. Have to make the most of it. Really rinse the life out of it, right? And so I would always be of the school of thought, or give the advice, move to the city, do the thing. Especially in your 20s. I think you should definitely live in a different city in your 20s and your 30s, depending on your situation in terms of, you know, if you have kids and different things. We become so attached to the life we have, right? And we've absorbed our parents, if you're similar generation to me, we've absorbed our parents' fear about, oh, you'll never get another job again. And it's one job for life. That's not true. It was true of their time. It's not true for our time. So try not to take that on board, which is really, really hard. And definitely go and explore new things. And I've shared this before, but I'm going to try and make this brief. Is that I moved to London 10 years ago. 10 years ago. I probably did this month. That's so cute. Exactly this time 10 years ago, I was packing up to leave for London at 26, and my grandparents were getting on like I was dying. It was a literal week. So funny. You swear it was hundreds of years ago where I was getting on a boat for 2 weeks to travel to America, or to travel to England by boat. And I moved to London, and I've shared this. I feel like a broken record. Cried every day I was so sad. I completely unraveled. And do you know that sometimes what's got to happen for your healing? It was the best decision I ever made. I have found the loves of my life through that decision, and it led me to where I am today. It was one of the igniters for me to go to therapy, this whole experience of me moving to London. And so even if it doesn't work out, if you travel to a new city, it's such a great teacher. And it really helps you learn so much about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, rather than staying in one spot. The research and the theory around it would say that people who hold a lot of trauma struggle to move and change place, which makes sense, right? And the more we heal, the more we can explore new things. Then after that, I moved to Dublin with Diageo at the time and had a ball. I loved Dublin. I was an hour and a half from home, loved it. And then I realised that my grandparents were getting older, and there was just this real feeling for me that I wanted to be close to them. I get so emotional even thinking about them. They had taken care of me all their lives, and I wanted to be around for them too. And I moved back to Belfast. So I think by the time I was 29, I was back in Belfast, and I was really happy. Was in therapy and had a job I loved, working in brands. I actually worked for Bacardi at that time, had a ball. Then I did my yoga teacher training at 29. This is a real fucking life story, isn't it? He's all asked for it, so I hope I'm not boring you. I did my yoga teacher training at 29, and then at 30, I thought about moving again then, back to London, because my best friend Holly was in London. But I remember being like, oh, I would never survive teaching yoga in London. I would never survive. I'm too small, it's too big, I'm not good enough to make a living in London. And obviously I was only new at teaching yoga as well, so it all made sense that I felt this way. And I think that was the driver, like I wanted to become more skilled at being a yoga teacher. So then I went traveling for 4 months in South America, and then I started teaching yoga full time. I did the very ballsy move. Don't know if it was a stupid move, but I decided to go all in with the yoga teacher training in teaching yoga in 2018. So the August 2018. So I arrived back from South America in July, and I was starting my business. Well, it was sort of like a tiny, like a blob of cells when I went to South America. And then I was going into the stage of becoming a fetus. 18 months later, so a year and a half later, lockdown hit. So you can imagine the first year and a half I was working full time. Things were going well. There was lots of exciting things happening. I was working in spaces I really loved, such as I used to teach sunrise yoga on the rooftop in the Bullet Hotel in Belfast. And there was a lot of great things happening. And then lockdown hit, and I met someone just before lockdown hit. My friend set me up with a guy, and that's what happened before that. That's what I wanted to tell you is that my yoga teacher training blew my mind and my heart wide open and changed me. I was someone who was very dark, very hard, very numb, very avoidant, and don't get me wrong, all those things are still in parts there, but there was new parts coming alive that I didn't know I had. I remember thinking everybody needs to experience this. Who cares about being a yoga teacher? It shouldn't be called yoga teacher training because it puts people off doing it, but everybody should do one. And then that's when I created a women's self-care course to give women an experience and a taste of yoga teacher training. So that first one must have been in the 2019, and I'm still talking to some of the girls on it, such as Chloe, and I think about Mary and Brona, and yeah, it's amazing that through this work you just get to fall in love with more and more women and connect so much. So this is like the first versions of the wave effect. I called them women's self-care courses at the time. We did longer sessions because that suited the time of lockdown when no one had anywhere else to go. And they worked really well, especially because women were meeting trauma and people were getting forced to sit with themselves for the first time ever in lockdown. And a lot of shit was coming to surface for people. And at a time where you couldn't really get help or maybe do the things that helped soothe you before. And so I took these women's self-care courses, and they were my saving grace through lockdowns, online, met every day. So they brought me so much joy, and that was one of the gifts of lockdown. It really reaffirmed what I was meant to do and what I was meant to teach. And so throughout it, I taught, it was just yoga. Then I had done my breathwork training. I went into my breathwork training in 2020. So it was around similar time I became a trained breathwork facilitator. It took me a year to do that training. Throughout that, my daddy got diagnosed with terminal cancer in July 2020. My grandmother died after contracting COVID, and for anyone who's new to listening, my granny and granddad brought me up, so that's like my mother and father to me. The next month after my granny died, me and my boyfriend broke up, and we were nearly together 2 years, and then my daddy died in September 2022. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was even more lost than the first time I went to the yoga teacher training. I was completely broken. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I didn't know who I was, where to go. I didn't know anything anymore. I always had an interest in somatics because that was taught in parts through all my trainings. I was very blessed. In my yoga teacher trainings, I trained with incredible teachers, and if you want access to any of that information, it's on my website. And so I had completed my breathwork facilitator course, and it seems to be the thing I do is to pour myself into something when I'm completely heartbroken. This course really spoke to me. I had been practicing with Tara Judell and following her online for a while. I loved the way she taught. I loved the way she taught a yoga class that connected me to the intelligence of my body and what each organ did in the physical and emotional realm, in the mind and in the body. Was obsessed. And so she had a training that January, and I signed up, and I went back to Bali once more. And in this course, it was 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. every day, 6 days a week for 6 weeks. Talk about being absolutely rubbed out and drew again. Every day we sat for an hour and a half in meditation, and that involved breath work and chanting, and then we moved for 2 hours intuitively. So with very little asana, you had to let your body move and not move from the mind. That is a whole other podcast if you want it on it in itself. The experience is, obviously this is my third time of sitting intensely in a course like this. My second 300 hour was in Sex, Death and Wealth in 2019. This is my third time sitting in like my version of the wave, well, like the bigger version of the wave effect, right? And so much was revealed, and I was able to piece myself back together. Now, it didn't happen in the 6 weeks. I'm still piecing myself back together, but it really helped. At the end of the 6 weeks, you look different. You know, I look different. Your skin is different. You feel different. It's such an incredible experience, and an incredibly privileged one at that. And that's why I created the Wave Effect, so that people could access this at home. And also, it's important for me, and it's part of my practice, and the women that I work with, it's what I support them in doing, is to make these practices a part of our lives. Because yeah, it's amazing to go to Bali and to do it for 6 weeks. It's incredibly fucking hard also, because you will meet every part of yourself that you didn't want to meet, and every thought that you didn't want to attend to. But we need to always do that. And I have been committed to my meditation and journaling since 2017. Has it been consistent to a T? No. But it's about 80-20. Most of the time, I am committed to attending to myself and practicing my meditation more so than my movement practice, because it's magic. Don't get me wrong, movement is magic too. There's something like mushrooms or DMT or some psychedelic to this. Now, very mild, sometimes a bit stronger, but there's something extremely powerful about it that my language and tongue cannot explain. And you can experience the change in how you look. Like, you actually look different when you attend to yourself for 30 minutes every day, or whether it's bigger sets. Because that's a rule of physics, is the observer affects the object, and you observing yourself changes you. And what matters most in these practices of sitting that happens in the course I offer, and also in many courses you can do that could support you in this work of learning to sit in silence and stillness and be with yourself, is how present you are. And that's written in all the texts and philosophies, is be present is the key to a happy life. And Gabriel Mate, who is 80, has only started his meditation practice in the past 10 years, and he is someone with ADHD, and he says it's very, very difficult for him. But for those brief seconds when he's truly present and he connects to something bigger, it's so worth it. And that's what keeps you coming back. That's what keeps you sitting, because that's the teaching of yoga. In our truest form, we are a state of bliss, relaxation and peace and love. And at any times we are not that, we have moved away from ourselves and we need to come home. So back to the why I moved to London. So in the course, there was this feeling you should move city. And it was a feeling, it wasn't a voice. And I was like, I couldn't, I wouldn't get any customers in a different city. No. And the feeling was coming and coming and coming. And then I shared it with the group, to Tara, Judelle and the others. And they said, oh, I so see that for you, Carla. You should definitely go. And the feeling was London. And maybe it was because it was an unfinished story. And also because I have a community in London. My best friend was living there at the time. It's another story for another day. Holly, if you're listening, you were shite, who left as soon as I came back. And I had lots of great friends here. So it was a much easier transition than starting from scratch friends-wise. Also, the movement scene in London is amazing, and there's a lot of people doing incredible things, which was a big attraction for me. And then I gave everybody the shock of their lives when I said I was moving back to London. I think it did surprise everybody, because it wasn't like I was talking about it. I went away and sat with myself for 6 weeks and came back and said, oh, I'm moving back to London. And I remember my friend Paul, who I lived with the first time in London, and he used to go out with my best friend Holly. That's how we met. And he was shocked when I said I was coming back to London. He was like, what the fuck? What, you wrote about the floor, now you're moving back to London? That was his description of the work of somatics. And that's what happened. Also, what influenced me was Joanne McNally and Jenny Keane. Joanne McNally is a comedian, and she moved to London at 36, and her career just got stronger and stronger. And she met someone, and now she's single again. And I'm like, I could have a bit of her life, absolutely. I think maybe there was a part of me who thought that you can't move to London at your age. I meant to be buying a house and settling down and, doing all that stuff. But then I found someone online who did it, and I was like, yeah, well, she did it, so I can. And Joanne McNally it wasn't like she got famous and then moved. She did it when she was just normal like us. And then Jenny Keane, she is a sex educator, if you still follow her online. And again, she was 36, I think, when she moved to London, and she was single, and now she's with somebody and has a wee baby. So they both worked out for them too. So that was all the inspiration I really needed for me to come out. And it was the best decision I ever made. I couldn't have seen my life after all what happened, after all the lockdowns and everything. And I can't see it in Belfast. It would have been different if I had been in a relationship. And it depends on all those factors. And if I'd have bought a house, which I didn't do, allergic to growing up, that's me. But the bottom line to all this is your body holds the answers of who you are when you feel really lost. And if you're really torn about what to do, it has the answers about where you want to go. And if you're like, I have no patience and I'm not creative, that is not true. You just need to devote some time to yourself, because creativity comes from feeling. So you got to feel. And to breathe is to feel. You got to be in your body. And that is the addiction that we're all working through. Too much time in our heads. Too much time thinking. The mind does not know the answer. It is the perceiver from the body. It picks up the answers. It doesn't create the answers, although your thoughts love to assist that. The practice of somatics is surrendering to the intelligence of the body, which we have all forgotten how incredible it is. We're spending too much time in the brains thinking all day, and not enough time in the sensory experiences of our bodies. And in somatics, we surrender the control of mind that dictates and can interfere so much with the body, to let the body talk, to let the body move. And breathwork is what connects mind to body. Breath is the marriage between body and mind. And breathwork has the techniques that help you relax, helps the body come into that state of relaxation, which makes it more accessible for you to sit and be silent. And if we can't sit and be with ourselves, there's something we're avoiding in ourselves. We cannot spend the whole of our lives running from ourselves. Trust me, I did it for 28, 29 years, and I was really unhappy. I didn't know anything about myself or what I enjoyed and what I liked. We have to learn to trust and be patient, because that's the big problem that I had and that I see in others, is that capitalism, along with patriarchy, has made us believe that we are the creators of our lives. That, if we just worked harder, we would get everything that we want. It's bullshit. You are not the sole creator of your life. Because we've grown up having this indoctrinated in us, we think too much, do too much, and try and control too much, and it makes our lives miserable. It creates so much suffering, and we never feel at peace with our joy. We have to trust and be patient for that suffering to dissipate, for us not to worry what's around the corner, for us to truly be in the moment, in the present moment, and enjoy the life that's in front of us. And that was one of my favourite quotes. I can't remember what training this was from. I think it was my first yoga teacher training. I believe it's Julie or Julia, a beautiful teacher. It was on my first yoga teacher training. And she shared this quote from Muji: "I await my deliverance with calm certainty." Because I was someone who was a pusher, a forcer. I can change the world. I can get what I want. And it led me to everything I didn't want. And yeah, so I had to, that is still my mantra. I await my deliverance with calm certainty, because we are the co-creators, and we have to meet what is meeting us instead of rushing past it. Because if you believe that you are the sole creator, I'm going to guess that you're exhausted, you're burnt out, and you just don't feel joy. That was my very roundabout life story way of explaining how I got into somatics, the importance of somatics, of letting the body talk, listening. It's designed to heal. The brain is designed for fear. Spend more time in your body. And breathwork is magic. There is a theory that breathwork activates DMT in our bodies, which I believe, because I've tripped in my breath. But you have to have your own science experiments with it. And as my teacher, Andrea Bonnie, says, you're never more close to God than you are your own breath. So if you're seeking something bigger, if you're wanting change in your life, if you're wanting more peace and happiness and a smoothness and calmness to your life, it to feel more sexy, join us on the Wave Effect. It begins next week. I'm so excited. On the 4th of September, under new moon skies, in complete darkness, which is where we were all born from, in the same wee shape, same wee curtain shape. And you can spend a month devoting time to yourself and attending to yourself, and so much will be revealed to you. And usually we meet all the resistance between us and our source, which is love. You are love. And if you're in a state of fear, there's just some resistance that needs attending to, through softness, through compassion. My hope for anyone who's joined the Wave Effect is you're going to know how incredibly intelligent your body is. And I know some of you think that it's out to get you at the minute, in terms of feeling so anxious and things are triggering you and there's patterns being repeated. But it's asking you to listen to something in that. There's something for you to listen to. There's something that once completed, accepted, and then it will dissolve. It's a month of completing what needs to be completed in your body, what wants to be felt. And when we push things away, when we don't attempt, when we avoid, it's in our unconscious and it entangles us. It creates chains and imprisons us. And when we bring it into the conscious light, whether we like it or not like it, whether we wish it didn't happen in our lives, once we accept it, no matter how painful it was, it sets us free. And who doesn't want to be a wee bit more free? I'm excited to be a wee bit more free. I'm 37 next month. Yeah, so I'm very selfishly, I'm really excited for this month to reflect and attend to truth and see what's really going on for me and what I really want. And it's always changing. Who we are is always changing, and all things is always changing. And God knows what's going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And for those who are called to join me, I'm so excited for us to create a weekly cartoon and know that that is the power of the group. It's the power of women connecting and not container. Even in Zoom, it's mad. It is mad, mad, mad. You will go on the Zoom and you will feel the energy of the group. Thank you so much for listening. Sending loads and loads of love. Email me your crack. Give me things you're watching, films. I love a cry, so if you can send me anything to cry to. Anyway, sending loads of love. Sorry for the waffle at the end. And I hope you have a gorgeous day and enjoy these last few days of summer. Take care.